News traveled fast in the galaxy. By the time Tae-sung woke up from a much-needed 6-hour sleep, messages were flooding into Station Meridian from across known space. The Velnar government wanted details. Other species' medical organizations wanted information. Even human medical schools back on Earth were asking for his report. Ambassador Yura was sitting up in bed when he came to check on her that afternoon. She looked weak still, but her color was good. Khalith sat beside her, showing her something on a data tablet. "Dr. Kwan," Yura said when she saw him, "I was just reading about what you did. Khalith has been explaining the treatment. How are you feeling?" Tae-sung asked. "Like I was turned to stone and then brought back to life, which is exactly what happened." She smiled. "My entire body aches. But I am alive to feel it, so I will not complain." "You should make a full recovery," Tae-sung said, checking her latest scans. "There doesn't appear to be any permanent damage from the cascade lock. Your cells are functioning normally now." "Normally," Yura repeated. "I never thought I would hear that word applied to me again after cascade lock began." "Do you understand what you have done, Doctor? You have accomplished something my entire species believed was impossible." "I had a lot of help," Tae-sung said, uncomfortable with the praise. "Yes, but it was your idea. Your refusal to accept what everyone else accepted." Yura looked at Keyleth. "He tells me you argued with your own chief medical officer to try this treatment. Someone had to try something different." Yura was quiet for a moment. When she spoke again, her voice was serious. "I have been an ambassador for 15 years. I have negotiated treaties, prevented conflicts, built bridges between species. But I have also seen how species can become trapped by their own assumptions. We Velnar accepted Cascade Lock as inevitable, because we had always known it to be fatal. We stopped looking for solutions. You showed us that sometimes an outsider's perspective is exactly what is needed to see past our blind spots." Over the next few days, Tae-sung found himself busier than ever. He wrote detailed reports about the treatment. He met with Velnar medical experts who came to the station specifically to learn from him. He gave presentations to the station's medical staff explaining his thought process. Jiwoo watched all of this with amusement. "You've become famous," she told him one morning. "The human doctor who cured the incurable. There are news reports about you on at least 20 different planets." "I didn't cure anything," Tae-sung protested. "I just found a different approach to an existing problem." "That's what curing means, Tae-sung. Finding solutions to problems." Jiwoo handed him another message. "This one is from the Velnar Medical Council. They want you to come to their homeworld to help develop the treatment into a standard medical protocol." Tae-sung read the message. It was a formal invitation, very polite but also very clear about how important this was to them. "They want me to train their doctors," he said. "Of course they do. You're the only person in the galaxy who has successfully reversed Cascade Lock. They need your knowledge, but I'm not a Velnar expert. Khalith knows far more about their biology than I do." "Maybe," Jiwoo said. "But you know how to think differently about problems. That's what they need to learn." A week after Ambassador Yura's recovery, the Velnar Medical Council held a special session via communication link. Tae-sung, Jiwoo, Khalith, and Yura all attended from Station Meridian. The council chamber on the Velnar homeworld appeared on the large screen in the conference room. The council leader, an elderly Velnar named Torin, spoke first. "Dr. Kwan Tae-sung, on behalf of the entire Velnar species, we thank you for saving Ambassador Yura's life. We also thank you for showing us that Cascade Lock is not the death sentence we believed it to be." "You're welcome," Tae-sung said, feeling awkward with so many important people watching him. "We would like to invite you to our homeworld to help us develop this treatment into something that can be used across our medical system. We understand this is a significant request. You would need to leave your current position for several months, perhaps longer, but the potential to save thousands of lives makes this request necessary." Tae-sung looked at Jiwoo. She nodded slightly, giving him permission to accept if he wanted. "I would be honored," Tae-sung said, "but I have one condition." The council members looked surprised. Clearly they hadn't expected conditions. "What condition?" Torin asked. "That this information is shared freely with all species, not just the Velnar. If there are lessons here that can help other species with their own medical challenges, everyone should have access to them." The council members spoke among themselves for a moment. Then Torin smiled. "Agreed. In fact, we were already planning to do this. The ambassador has convinced us that hoarding medical knowledge helps no one. We will publish everything openly. After the meeting ended, Yura approached Tae-sung. "That was well done," she said. "You think like a diplomat as well as a doctor. I just think that if something can help people, everyone should know about it." "That is a very human philosophy," Yura observed. "Most species are more protective of their discoveries, but humans seem to believe that shared knowledge benefits everyone." "It does benefit everyone," Tae-sung said. "The more people working on a problem, the faster we solve it. That's how human medicine advanced so quickly. We shared information, built on each other's work." Yura nodded thoughtfully. "Perhaps that is why you were able to save me. You come from a culture that values collaboration over competition, at least in medicine. You did not see helping me as taking something from humanity to give to the Velnar. You saw it as simply doing what was right." 2 weeks after the incident, Station Meridian held a small ceremony in the medical bay. It was Jiwoo's idea. She said they should mark important moments, and this qualified. Ambassador Yura was there, now fully recovered and preparing to return to her diplomatic duties. Kaleth and his medical team attended. Sung-ho and his engineering crew came. Even some of the station's administrative staff showed up. Jiwoo gave a short speech about the importance of creative thinking in medicine. Sung-ho talked about how satisfying it was to see his engineering work save a life. Kaleth spoke about hope and how one person's refusal to give up had changed everything for his species. Then it was Tae-sung's turn to speak. He looked around at all the faces watching him. Humans, Velnar, and several other species. All of them here because one patient had survived something unsurvivable. "I'm not good at speeches," he began, "so I'll keep this short. What happened here wasn't about me being special or particularly smart. It was about being willing to question assumptions. Every species develops medical knowledge based on their own experience. That's natural. But sometimes those assumptions can blind us to new possibilities." He looked at Keyleth. "The Velnar have amazing medical technology, far beyond what humans have in many ways. But they had accepted Cascade Lock as incurable because their experience told them it was. I was able to help not because I knew more, but because I didn't know it was impossible. Sometimes ignorance can be useful if it comes with willingness to try." Tae-sung paused, gathering his thoughts. "There's a saying on Earth, the only real failure is not trying. Humans are not the strongest species in the galaxy. We're not the smartest. We don't live the longest or have the best technology. But we're stubborn. We try things even when they seem hopeless. And sometimes that stubbornness pays off." He smiled at the gathered crowd. "I hope what happened here encourages all of us to question our assumptions, to try new approaches, to share knowledge across species barriers. Because the next impossible problem is out there somewhere, and the solution might come from the most unexpected place." After the ceremony, people mingled and talked. Tae-sung found himself surrounded by well-wishers. It was overwhelming but also touching to see how many people cared about what had happened. Yura pulled him aside eventually. "I leave for my homeworld tomorrow," she said. "Before I go, I wanted to thank you properly. Without your intervention, I would be dead. My family would be mourning. The treaty I am negotiating would have failed, possibly leading to conflict. You saved more than just my life. You saved all the things my life touches." "I'm just glad the treatment worked," Tae-sung said. "It worked because you believed it could work. That is a gift, Doctor. Never lose it." Yura pressed something into his hand. It was a small crystal, beautifully carved. "This is a traditional Velnar token of life debt. It means I owe you a life. If you ever need anything at all, you need only ask." "I can't accept this," Tae-sung started to say. "You must. It would be offensive to refuse. Besides, you have already accepted something far more significant. You have accepted the responsibility of teaching my people how to save themselves. That is a burden I hope does not weigh too heavily on you." Tae-sung looked at the crystal. It caught the light beautifully, creating small rainbows. "I'll do my best," he said. "I know you will. Because that is what humans do. You try your best even when the odds seem impossible. The galaxy is better for having humans in it, Dr. Kwan. Never forget that." That night, Tae-sung stood at the observation window in his quarters, looking out at the stars. Station Meridian orbited a beautiful planet, and from this angle he could see both the planet and the distant stars beyond. The changes came slowly at first, so slowly that Tae-sung kept questioning whether he was seeing real progress or just wishful thinking. But the monitors didn't lie. Every 30 minutes, the fluctuations in Ambassador Yura's cellular structure grew a little stronger. 2 hours into the treatment, Keyleth called in more of his medical team. They stood around the observation window, watching their ambassador with a mixture of disbelief and cautious hope. Taesung heard them speaking in their own language, their voices low and urgent. "What are they saying?" he asked Kelith. "They are debating whether this is real. Some think the equipment is malfunctioning. Others think we are misreading the data. They have never seen cascade lock reverse before. It is difficult for them to believe." "But you believe it?" Taesung asked. Kelith looked at him with those strange alien eyes. "I want to believe, but I have been disappointed too many times before. I am afraid to hope." Jiwoo brought coffee for the humans and a Velnar beverage for Kelith. None of them had eaten dinner. The station's time cycle said it was late evening, but nobody was leaving. They all stood together, watching and waiting. At the 3-hour mark, something changed. The crystallization in Yura's skin began to visibly fade. It was subtle, but Taesung could see it through the observation window. Her skin was starting to look more like living flesh and less like glass. "Her cellular structure is reorganizing," one of the Velnar doctors said, his voice shaking. "The cascade is reversing." "It is actually reversing." The room erupted in excited conversation. Velnar doctors checked and rechecked the monitors. Kelith stood perfectly still, as if afraid any movement might break the spell. Taesung felt Jiwoo's hand on his shoulder. When he looked at her, she was smiling. "You did it," she said. "I didn't think it was possible, but you actually did it." "We did it," Taesung corrected. Sung-ho and his team built the environment. "You gave us the time and resources." Kelith provided the data. This was everyone working together. "Don't be modest," Jiwoo said. "This was your idea. Own it." But Taesung couldn't feel victorious yet. Yura wasn't awake. The cascade was reversing, but she still wasn't moving. There was a long way to go between not getting worse and fully recovered. Sung-ho had gone back to his quarters to sleep after the first hour, but he came back when he heard the news. He looked at the monitors and grinned. "I can't believe it actually worked," he said. "When you first described this plan, I thought you were crazy." "I thought I was crazy too," Taesung admitted. The night wore on. Station Meridian's lights dimmed to simulate evening, but the medical bay stayed bright. More people came to watch. Word had spread through the station that something impossible was happening. Humans, Velnar, and members of other species gathered outside the observation window. At hour 5, Yura's breathing changed. It became deeper, more natural. The mechanical quality was gone. Her chest rose and fell in a steady rhythm. Kelith moved closer to the glass, his hand pressed against it. Taesung saw tears running down the alien doctor's face. He didn't know Velnar could cry, but apparently they could. "She is coming back," Kelith whispered. "After all these years of watching people die, one is finally coming back." A young Velnar doctor, one of Kelith's staff, spoke up. "Dr. Kelith, what does this mean? If the cascade can be reversed for Ambassador Yura, could it work for others?" Kelith turned to face his team. His expression was serious despite his tears. "I don't know yet. This is one case, one success. We will need to study it carefully. Understand exactly why it worked. We cannot give false hope to our people until we are certain. But yes, this could change everything. If we can replicate this treatment, if we can make it standard medical procedure, then cascade lock is no longer a death sentence." The weight of those words settled over everyone. For the Velnar species, this wasn't just about saving one ambassador. This was about saving thousands of future lives. At hour 6, Yura's eyes began to move. Small movements at first, just the slightest flutter. Then more. Her fingers twitched. One of her feet moved slightly. "She is regaining motor control," a Velnar doctor announced. "Her nervous system is coming back online." Taesung checked the detailed scans. The crystallization was almost completely gone. Her cells looked normal now, or at least what passed for normal in Velnar biology. The cascade lock had been broken. At hour 7, Yura's eyes opened. Kelith made a sound that was half sob, half laugh. He turned to Taesung and grabbed him in a tight embrace. It surprised Taesung. He hadn't known Velnar were physically affectionate, but Kelith held him like he was saving a drowning man. "Thank you," Kelith said into Taesung's shoulder. "Thank you, thank you, thank you." When Kelith finally let go, Taesung saw that several of the Velnar medical staff were also crying. They hugged each other, spoke in rapid voices, checked the monitors again and again as if they couldn't believe what they were seeing. Jiwoo was wiping her own eyes. Even Sung-ho looked emotional, which was unusual for the normally calm engineer. Can we go in? Kalith asked. Can I speak to her? Her vital signs are stable. Taesung checked the monitors one more time. Yes, I think it's safe. But be gentle. She's been through a massive physiological trauma. Kalith entered the modified medical bay with Taesung right behind him. The artificial environment felt strange to Taesung, the air thick and the gravity heavy. But to Kalith and to Yura, this was home. Yura, Kalith said softly, approaching the bed. Can you hear me? The ambassador's eyes focused on him slowly. Her voice when she spoke was weak but clear. Kalith, what happened? You went into Cascade Lock during your flight. We thought we had lost you. Kalith took her hand carefully, but a human doctor found a way to save you. Yura's eyes moved to Taesung. She studied him for a moment. A human? I thought Cascade Lock was incurable. So did we, Kalith said. But apparently humans don't accept the word incurable very easily. Yura managed a weak smile. I should thank you properly, but I am very tired. Rest, Taesung said. You've been through something that no Velnar has ever survived before. Your body needs time to fully recover. How long was I? Yura started to ask. Almost 8 hours from the onset to now, Kalith answered. You should have died 4 hours ago. But you didn't. You came back to us. Yura closed her eyes, but she was still smiling. Good. I have a treaty negotiation scheduled next week. It would be rude to miss it. Despite everything, Taesung laughed. Even facing death, the ambassador was thinking about her diplomatic duties. Over the next 2 hours, Yura's condition continued to improve. Her speech became clearer. She could move her arms and legs with more control. The medical scans showed her cellular structure was completely normal now. There was no trace of the Cascade Lock remaining. As dawn came to Station Meridian and the artificial lights brightened to simulate morning, Kalith called a meeting of all the Velnar medical staff. Taesung was invited to attend. What we have witnessed tonight will be remembered in Velnar medical history, Kalith began. For the first time ever, Cascade Lock has been reversed. A life has been saved that would have been lost. This is because of the creative thinking of Dr. Kwan Taesung, who refused to accept what we had always believed was impossible. The Velnar doctors all looked at Taesung, some with gratitude, some with curiosity, all with respect. But this is not just a human achievement, Kalith continued. This is what happens when different species work together, when we share knowledge and perspectives. The human doctor saw something we missed because he came from a different medical tradition. He taught us that sometimes the solution is not to fight harder against a problem, but to work with the body's natural processes. One of the older Velnar doctors spoke up. Will this treatment work for all Cascade Lock cases? We don't know yet, Kalith admitted. We need to study Ambassador Yura's recovery carefully. We need to document everything and test the treatment in controlled conditions. But for the first time in our history, we have hope. Real concrete hope that Cascade Lock can be beaten. Taesung felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. This wasn't just about one successful treatment anymore. This was about changing the future of an entire species' medical care. I'll help however I can, he said. We can work together to develop proper protocols. Train your doctors in the technique, make sure it can be replicated safely. Kalith nodded. The Velnar Medical Council will want to speak with you. This discovery will need to be shared with our entire species. As the meeting ended and people began to leave, Taesung stayed behind. He looked through the observation window at Ambassador Yura, now sleeping peacefully. She looked so different from when she had arrived. Then she had been a crystallized statue waiting to die. Now she was simply a person resting after a difficult ordeal. Ji-woo found him there. You should get some sleep, she said. You've been awake for almost 20 hours. I will. I just wanted to make sure she was really okay. She's going to be fine. Thanks to you. Taesung shook his head. Thanks to everyone. And thanks to stubbornness. Human stubbornness that refuses to accept impossible. Ji-woo smiled. Well, that stubbornness just changed medical history. How does it feel? Taesung thought about it. He felt tired, relieved, and strangely humbled. It feels like the beginning, he said, not the end. Park Sung-ho arrived in the medical bay within 10 minutes. He was young for an engineer, barely 30, but he knew Station Meridian systems better than anyone. He took one look at the gathered doctors and understood this was serious. What do you need? Sung-ho asked. Taesung explained quickly while Kalith pulled up data on a portable screen. The Velnar doctor had brought detailed information about their homeworld's environmental conditions. Numbers filled the screen. Radiation frequencies, atmospheric compositions, gravity measurements, temperature ranges, humidity levels. It was incredibly specific. This is what we need to recreate, Taesung said, pointing at a particular set of readings. These exact conditions. Not close, exact. Sung-ho's eyes went wide. That's very precise. We'd need to modify an entire medical bay. The radiation emitters alone would take hours to calibrate properly. We don't have hours, Taesung said. We have less than 3 hours total. That's impossible. Taesung felt his frustration spike. Please don't say impossible. I've heard that word too many times today. Sung-ho held up his hands. I didn't say I wouldn't try. I said it's impossible to do it properly. But if you're okay with me taking shortcuts and hoping they work, then maybe we can pull this off. Take all the shortcuts you need, Taesung said. Sung-ho nodded and started working on his own portable computer. His fingers moved fast across the screen. Medical Bay 6 is currently empty. It's our largest isolation room, so it has the most environmental controls already built in. We can modify that. How long? Jiwoo asked. 2 hours, maybe less if I can get help from my team. Sung-ho was already sending messages on his device. I'm calling in every favor I have. While Sung-ho worked on the logistics, Taesung went back to check on Ambassador Yura. The Velnar medical team was still trying their treatments, but even to Taesung's untrained eye, it was clear they were losing hope. The monitors showed her vital signs dropping slowly but steadily. Khalith stood beside the bed, his hand resting gently on Yura's crystallized arm. He looked up when Taesung entered. How much longer does she have? Taesung asked quietly. 4 hours, perhaps 5 if we are lucky. The cascade is progressing slower than average, but it is still progressing. Taesung checked his own scans again. Those tiny fluctuations were still there. The cells were still trying to unlock themselves. He had to believe that meant something. Tell me about her, Taesung said. Ambassador Yura, who is she? Cliff seemed surprised by the question. Why do you want to know? Because she's not just a medical case. She's a person. And I work better when I remember that. Khalith's expression softened. He looked down at his patient with obvious affection. Yura came to me as a young student 20 years ago. She wanted to learn medicine to help people. She was brilliant, one of the best students I ever taught. But she had a gift for talking to people, for understanding them. After 5 years of medical training, she told me she wanted to go into diplomacy instead. I was disappointed at first, but then I realized she would help more people as an ambassador than as a doctor. She has prevented 3 wars through negotiation. She has saved thousands of lives without ever working in a medical bay. She sounds remarkable, Taesung said. She is, and I am about to watch her die because of a flaw in our biology that we cannot fix. Khalith's voice was bitter. Do you know how many times I have stood beside a bed like this? How many people I have watched die from cascade lock, and I can do nothing. Nothing but hold their hand while they slip away. Taesung put his hand on the alien doctor's shoulder. It was a human gesture, but the meaning seemed to translate. Not this time, Taesung said. This time we're going to try something new. And if it fails, then at least we tried. At least she won't die because we gave up. Khalith nodded slowly. There is wisdom in that. We Velnar have perhaps become too accepting of cascade lock. It has been a death sentence for so long that we stopped looking for answers. Maybe we needed someone who doesn't accept it to show us a new path. Sung-ho's voice came through Taesung's communication device. Dr. Kwan, I need you in Medical Bay 6. We're ready to start modifications. Taesung left Khalith with his patient and hurried to Bay 6. What he found there was controlled chaos. Engineering crew members were everywhere, pulling panels off walls, adjusting equipment, running cables. Sung-ho stood in the center of it all, directing traffic like a conductor leading an orchestra. Okay, Sung-ho said when he saw Taesung. I need you to confirm these specifications with the Velnar data. I'm setting up the radiation emitters now, but they need to be exactly right. For the next hour, Taesung worked alongside the engineering team. He had never realized how complex environmental systems were. Every detail mattered. The radiation had to be the right frequency and intensity. The atmosphere needed the correct mix of gases. Even the lighting had to match the specific wavelength of sunlight on the Velnar homeworld. Jiwoo stopped by twice to check progress. The first time she looked skeptical. The second time she looked impressed. You might actually pull this off, she said to Sung-ho. Don't congratulate me yet. Sung-ho replied, sweat on his forehead despite the cool station air. Getting the equipment in place is one thing. Making it all work together is another, and we still haven't tested anything. We don't have time for extensive testing, Taesung said. We'll have to test it with Ambassador Yura inside. Jiwoo didn't like that. That's risky. Everything about this is risky, Taesung pointed out. But doing nothing is riskier. With 30 minutes left before Jiwoo's 3-hour deadline, the modifications were complete. Medical Bay 6 had been transformed. It didn't look like any human medical facility anymore. Strange lights glowed from emitters on the walls. The air had a different quality to it, thicker somehow. The gravity felt slightly heavier. This is as close as I can get to the specifications, Sung-ho said. He looked exhausted. The radiation frequency is exact. The atmospheric composition is within 0.01%. Gravity is adjusted. Temperature and humidity are matched. But I can't guarantee everything will work perfectly together. Environmental systems are complex. Sometimes they interact in unexpected ways. It will have to be good enough, Taesung said. Thank you, Sung-ho, really. The engineer managed a tired smile. Just make sure it works. I don't want to have torn apart a medical bay for nothing. Taesung went to get Kalith and the ambassador. When the Velnar doctor saw the modified medical bay, he stopped in the doorway. This is... Kalith started, then couldn't seem to find words. As close to your homeworld as we could make it, Taesung finished. Kalith walked around the room slowly. He checked the monitors, examined the equipment. Then he just stood there, breathing in the altered air. It feels like home, he said quietly. I didn't expect that. It actually feels like standing on my planet during the calm season. Is it accurate enough? Jiwoo asked. I believe so. The details are remarkable. Kalith looked at Sung-ho with new respect. Your engineers are skilled. They brought Ambassador Yura in carefully. The Velnar medical team moved her onto the modified medical bed. Taesung connected monitoring equipment so they could track her vital signs from outside the room. Everyone gathered outside the observation window. Taesung, Jiwoo, Kalith, Sung-ho, and several Velnar medical staff. They watched as the environmental systems fully activated around Yura. Now what? One of the Velnar doctors asked. Now we wait, Taesung said, and we watch for any change in her cellular structure. The first 30 minutes were the longest of Taesung's life. The monitors showed no change. Yura's condition remained stable, but that wasn't good enough. Stable meant she was still dying, just not getting worse. Jiwoo pulled Taesung aside. Your 3 hours are almost up. I know. If there's no change soon, we need to think about end-of-life care for her. I know that too, just give me a little more time. Jiwoo nodded, but didn't look happy about it. At the 1-hour mark, one of the Velnar doctors made a sound. Everyone turned to look at the monitors. There, the doctor said, pointing. Did you see that? See what? Kalith asked, moving closer. A spike in the cellular readings. Just a small one, but it was there. Taesung watched the monitors intently. For several minutes, nothing happened. Then he saw it too. A small fluctuation, bigger than the ones he had seen before. Her cells are responding, he said. It could be random variation, Jiwoo warned. But Kalith was staring at the screens with wide eyes. No, look at the pattern. That is not random. Her cells are beginning to decrystallize. The room went completely silent. Everyone watched the monitors, afraid to hope, afraid to look away. Jiwoo pulled Taesung into the hallway outside the exam room. Her face was stern, the way it got when she was about to shut down one of his ideas. He had seen that look before. I know what you're thinking, she said quietly, but this is different from your usual creative solutions. This is a Velnar patient with a condition their entire medical establishment says is fatal. We cannot just experiment. I'm not suggesting we experiment blindly, Taesung argued. I'm suggesting we use what we know about their biology in a new way. A way they've never thought of? In centuries of trying? Jiwoo crossed her arms. Taesung, I admire your determination. It's what makes you a good doctor, but sometimes we have to accept that we're out of our depth. Back in the exam room, they could hear Kalith giving orders to his medical team. The sounds of desperate activity filled the air. Equipment beeped faster. Voices grew more urgent. They're trying everything they know, Taesung said, and it's not working. What do we lose by trying something different? We could lose the patient faster. What works for humans might kill her quicker. Every species is different, Taesung. That's the first rule of xenobiology. Jiwoo's voice softened a little. I understand wanting to help. But the ethical thing here is to make her comfortable in her final hours, not to give false hope. Tae-sung felt frustration building in his chest. How is it false hope if there's a real possibility? Is there? Or are you seeing patterns that aren't there because you want to help? Jiwoo put her hand on his arm. I've been doing this longer than you. I've seen doctors get too attached to saving patients. It clouds judgment. Before Tae-sung could answer, Khalith came out of the exam room. The alien doctor looked exhausted. His skin, normally a smooth blue-gray, had darker patches showing stress. We are running out of options, Khalith said. Every treatment we try shows no effect. The cascade continues to progress. He looked at Tae-sung. You mentioned environmental therapy. Explain exactly what you mean. Jiwoo started to speak, but Khalith held up a hand. Please let me hear it. At this point, I will listen to anything. Tae-sung gathered his thoughts. He needed to explain this clearly. On Earth, human doctors deal with a lot of conditions where the body attacks itself. Allergies, autoimmune disorders, things like that. Sometimes the body's protective systems go too far and become dangerous. The key to treating these isn't always to force the body to stop. Sometimes it's to guide the body back to normal gently. Khalith listened carefully. His strange eyes never left Tae-sung's face. Cascade lock is a protective response, right? Your cells crystallize to protect you from radiation. On your homeworld, this saves lives. The radiation comes, your cells lock, the radiation passes, your cells unlock. It's a natural cycle. Yes, Khalith said. But when the trigger is not radiation, the unlock never comes. But why? Tae-sung asked. The cells want to unlock. I saw it in my scans. There are fluctuations, tiny movements. The biological machinery is still there. It's just waiting for the right signal. We have tried to send that signal, Khalith said, his voice heavy with old grief. Believe me, we have tried. But you've tried to force it. You've tried to make the cells change through direct intervention. What if instead we recreate the exact environmental conditions that tell the cells the danger has passed? Not just similar conditions. Exact conditions. The specific radiation frequency, atmospheric pressure, gravity, temperature, everything that exists on your world during the calm season. Khalith was quiet for a long moment. The station hummed around them. Somewhere down the corridor someone laughed. Life continued on Station Meridian, unaware that in this one room a life was slipping away. We have used environmental chambers before, Khalith finally said. They did not work. What kind of environmental chambers? Tae-sung pressed. General Velnar atmosphere. Standard homeworld conditions. But not the exact conditions that signal safety to Velnar cells, right? Not the precise combination that tells the body the radiation danger is over and it's safe to unlock. Khalith's expression shifted. It was subtle, but Tae-sung saw it. A flicker of something. Not quite hope, but maybe the absence of complete certainty. That level of precision would be difficult to achieve. Khalith said slowly. We have a good engineering team, Tae-sung said. And your medical equipment has the exact specifications we'd need, right? You know what those safe conditions are? Yes, we have that data. Every Velnar medical database contains it. Khalith looked at Jiwoo. What do you think, Chief Medical Officer? Do you believe this could work? Jiwoo was silent. Tae-sung could see her thinking, weighing options. She was careful, always careful. It was what made her a good chief. But sometimes careful wasn't enough. I think, Jiwoo said slowly, that the probability of success is very low. The Velnar have advanced medicine. If they haven't thought of this exact approach, there may be a reason. Or, Tae-sung said, they're too close to the problem. Sometimes you need fresh eyes. Fresh eyes can also be ignorant eyes, Jiwoo countered. But her voice wasn't as firm as before. However, she paused. However, doing nothing guarantees failure. And I've learned over the years that human medicine has succeeded before by ignoring what's supposedly impossible. She looked at Khalith. If we try this, I need to set limits. We have limited time and resources. I'll give Dr. Kwan 3 hours to set up and attempt this treatment. If there's no improvement in Ambassador Yura's condition within that time, we stop and focus on making her comfortable. Agreed? Khalith nodded slowly. Agreed. 3 hours is more hope than I had 5 minutes ago. I'll need your medical data, Tae-sung said, his mind already racing ahead. The exact environmental specifications, and I'll need to talk to our engineering team immediately. I will provide everything you need, Khalith said. Then he grabbed Tae-sung's arm. His grip was strong, desperate. But you must understand something, human doctor. Ambassador Yura is not just a patient to me. She was my student. I taught her about medicine and healing before she chose the path of diplomacy. I have already lost too many people to Cascade Lock. Friends, colleagues, patients I could not save. If this fails, if she dies after you have given me hope. His voice broke slightly. I understand, Taesung said quietly, and I promise you I will do everything I can. Keyleth released his arm and stepped back. Why are you doing this? You don't know her. You don't know our people. Why risk failure for a stranger? Taesung thought about that question. It was a good question. The easy answer was that he was a doctor, and doctors helped people, but it was more than that. On Earth, he said, humans have a saying. We say that the only true failure is not trying. We're not the strongest species. We're not the smartest. We don't have the best technology. But we're stubborn. We don't give up easily. And sometimes that stubbornness is exactly what's needed. Keyleth studied him for a moment. Then for the first time since arriving, the alien doctor's face showed something other than despair. Then let us be stubborn together, Keyleth said. Show me what human medicine can do. Taesung turned to Jiwoo. I'll need Park Sung-ho from engineering. He's the best we have at environmental systems. Jiwoo nodded. I'll call him now. But Taesung, remember, 3 hours. That's all we have. Taesung looked back toward the exam room where Ambassador Yura lay dying. 3 hours to do the impossible. 3 hours to prove that sometimes the solution wasn't to fight harder. Sometimes it was to fight smarter. Then let's not waste any time, he said, and started running. The medical bay was quiet when the alarms started screaming. Dr. Kwon Taesung looked up from his desk, his coffee still warm in his hand. For 3 seconds, everything was still. Then the entire station seemed to wake up at once. Emergency docking request on Platform 7. The voice came through every speaker in Station Meridian. Medical team to Bay 7 immediately. Taesung was already moving. He grabbed his medical kit and ran down the corridor. His shoes made soft sounds against the metal floor. Other crew members pressed themselves against the walls to let him pass. He had been a doctor on this station for 2 years now, and he knew that tone in the announcer's voice. Something was very wrong. The docking bay doors were already open when he arrived. A small diplomatic shuttle sat there, its lights still flashing. Dr. Han Ji-woo, the chief medical officer, was right behind him. She was older than Taesung, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. What do we have? Ji-woo asked one of the station workers. Velnar diplomatic vessel. They're saying their ambassador collapsed during flight. She's in bad shape. Taesung felt his stomach tighten. The Velnar were one of the more advanced species in the galaxy. If their own doctors couldn't help someone, it was serious. The shuttle's door opened. 2 Velnar medical staff came out carrying a stretcher. Taesung got his first look at the patient. Ambassador Yura lay completely still on the stretcher. But something was wrong with how she looked. Her skin had a strange quality to it, almost like crystal or glass. It didn't move the way living flesh should move. Behind the stretcher came another Velnar. He was tall, with the typical blue-gray skin of his species. His face showed deep worry. I am Keyleth, head physician for the ambassador, he said quickly. His voice shook slightly. She has entered Cascade Lock. We have perhaps 6 hours before total cellular death. Jiwoo's face went pale. Even Taesung, who was still learning about alien medicine, knew what that meant. He had read about Cascade Lock in the xenobiology texts. It was a death sentence for the Velnar species. Bring her to exam room 3, Jiwoo ordered. It has the full alien medical scanner. They moved quickly through the station. Taesung walked beside the stretcher, watching the ambassador. She wasn't breathing normally. Each breath seemed forced, mechanical. Her eyes were open but didn't move. It was like looking at a statue of a living person. In the exam room, they transferred Yura to the main medical bed. Keyleth immediately started connecting Velnar medical equipment to her. Other Velnar medical staff rushed in with their own devices. Taesung stepped back to give them room, but he kept watching. Jiwoo pulled up the station's medical database on the main screen. She searched for Cascade Lock. The information that appeared made everyone in the room go silent. Survival rate, 0%, Jiwoo read quietly. Cascade Lock is a complete biological shutdown that affects all Velnar cellular structures. Once begun, the process cannot be reversed. Time to complete cellular death, 4 to 8 hours depending on the individual's health prior to onset. Keyleth didn't look up from his work. His hands moved over the ambassador with practiced skill, but Tae-sung could see the hopelessness in every movement. "We know," Khalith said. "We have known for centuries. Cascade Lock has killed thousands of our people. Scientists, explorers, children. Once it begins, there is nothing we can do. But you're still trying," Tae-sung said. Khalith finally looked at him. The alien's eyes were different from human eyes, but the pain in them was universal. "She is like a daughter to me. I taught her medicine before she chose diplomacy. I will not let her die alone without trying everything, even if I know it is useless." Tae-sung moved closer to the bed. He pulled out his own scanner, a human medical device. Jiwoo gave him a look. "Tae-sung, human equipment won't be much help here. The Velnar medical technology is far more advanced than ours for treating their own species." "I just want a look," Tae-sung said. He ran the scanner over the ambassador's arm. The readings came back strange. Her cells had indeed crystallized, just like the database said. But something caught his attention. There were tiny fluctuations in the readings. Very small, but they were there. The cells weren't completely frozen. They were oscillating, moving just slightly. "What causes Cascade Lock?" Tae-sung asked. "What triggers it?" Khalith stopped his work for a moment. "Our species evolved on a world with extreme radiation. Cascade Lock is a survival mechanism. When our bodies detect certain types of danger, the cells crystallize to protect us. It works well for radiation exposure. The cells lock up, the radiation passes, and then they unlock. But if the trigger is something else, something biochemical or medical, the unlock never happens. The cells stay frozen until they die." "So it's meant to be temporary," Tae-sung said. "Yes, but in these cases it becomes permanent. We have tried everything. Radiation therapy, cellular stimulation, genetic resequencing, direct neural intervention. Nothing works. The cascade cannot be reversed once it begins in response to non-radiation triggers." Tae-sung looked at his scanner readings again. Those fluctuations bothered him. They suggested the cells wanted to unlock but couldn't, like a door that was stuck, not welded shut. Jiwoo touched his shoulder. "Tae-sung, we need to accept this. Every species has their limits. This is the Velnar's tragic weakness. We can't fix everything." "No," Tae-sung said. He surprised himself with how firm his voice was. "I don't accept that." "Not yet." Khalith looked at him with something between hope and irritation. "Human, I appreciate your desire to help, but you must understand. My people have studied this for centuries. Our medical science is advanced in ways yours is not. If we cannot solve this, how could you?" Tae-sung met the alien doctor's eyes. "Maybe that's exactly why I can help. Because I don't know it's impossible yet." The room went quiet. The only sound was the beeping of medical equipment and the soft hum of the station's life support systems. Jiwoo broke the silence. "What are you thinking?" "I'm thinking that the Velnar have been trying to reverse Cascade Lock. They've been fighting against it. But what if that's the wrong approach?" Tae-sung pointed to his scanner. "Look at these readings. The cells are still active, just barely. They're trying to unlock themselves but can't. What if instead of forcing them to change, we help them change naturally?" Khalith shook his head. "We have tried supportive care. It doesn't work." "Not supportive care," Tae-sung said. "Environmental therapy. You said the Cascade Lock is meant to respond to radiation on your homeworld, right? And then it naturally unlocks when the danger passes. What if we recreate the exact conditions of your planet when it's safe? Trick her body into thinking the danger is over?" The Velnar doctor stared at him. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then Khalith's expression hardened. "That will not work. We have tried environmental treatments before. But have you tried recreating the exact safe conditions? Not just general therapy, but the precise radiation levels, atmospheric pressure, gravity, everything from a calm period on your homeworld?" Khalith opened his mouth to answer, then stopped. He looked uncertain for the first time. Jiwoo stepped forward. "That's a very long shot, Tae-sung, and we don't have much time." Tae-sung looked down at Ambassador Yura. Her crystallized face was peaceful, but he could see the life slowly fading from her. "Then we should start now," he said.